Sorry.
It's all good, man.
Both.
I think we should be live now.
Dun, 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 dun. It's funny.
Go ahead. I was just
I
laughing.
was saying, I've been like looking at. Ooh.
There we go.
So I've been looking at your. I've got the Glass Orchard Aftermath. I've got that saved as one of my favorites, and it keeps like showing me videos of yours I may have missed, and like Woodstock and 50th anniversary experience disc box set unboxing and pickups and things like that. And so it's like marked through the years.
It's really funny
So
if you go back and you look at the really really old stuff. Um, I don't know. It kind of makes me sad sometimes just to kind of see there's like a few where it's Sam and I record shopping and all that good stuff. So yeah, I'm glad that you're glad you're enjoying the vintage stuff. So
it's fun. It's pretty neat.
all right. So it looks
So
like
we got a lot to talk about tonight.
we do. Yeah, we got a couple of people on. If you're in the chat, say hello. Good to see you
Please.
on this Tuesday evening. Plenty to talk about tonight. So, Steve, if you want to go ahead and kick it off, let's do it.
Well, let's talk about real quick Tony Olivia and Jim Catt of the Twins in the Hall of Fame. So that's pretty cool. Yep. It's a shame that Dick Allen lost by 1 vote and Roger Maris didn't get the nod. So, but hey, it seems like some guys who may not have been superstars and household names are starting to get recognized a little more. So that's certainly great.
Yeah, I mean, Jim Catt is definitely a guy who.
Excuse me.
Yeah, he's one that like he was in that semi-stars thing, and it was just a matter of time. Like, you know what I mean? Like he was good in his day, but it wasn't like one of those things that people would say right away. Like, oh, hey, this is you don't think of him right off the top, but he's definitely a guy that stats wise needs to be in there. So.
But I guess if you pitch for 25 years, that's
right. Which he did.
You can kind of stick around a little bit. So yeah. So anyway,
the other thing I wanted to talk about, I think we just to kind of kick this evening up, big news from WWE that they are no longer going to do physical media. So Steve, give me your thoughts. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm both shocked and not surprised all at the same time. It seems that when they had the network, there wasn't really a need to have physical media, right? Because everything was just in this huge library and it was relatively easy to navigate. But then they switched over to Peacock, and I personally haven't tried it, but I've heard that there's been nothing but headaches and everything else involved with it. So it seems kind of like that's the way we're moving as a society, as far as the physical aspect of things are, unless it's vital, seem to be dwindling and there not being much of it. To me, I think it's silly. It's relatively inexpensive for them to do that, and they seem to be decent sellers. Especially the catalog stuff, maybe not the newer stuff that you can again stream right then and there. But I definitely think that it's a shame to have this wide catalog and have essentially pretty soon nothing in print in a physical form.
So a couple of thoughts that I have with it is, we know that this was the push, right? We know as soon as they did the network that this was the push, that streaming was the future.
Sure.
But are we looking at, is it something that this is like WWE is going to sell? Do you think this is?
Yes.
You think this is that's the next step, right?
I mean, they're liquidating everything. They're cutting guys and they're not renewing contracts. And there's an alternative with AEW. And you look at guys like Matt Cardona, who is known as Zack Ryder in the WWE. He's doing a lot of stuff on the indie, is making a comfortable living doing that. There's alternatives now, and once you have that alternative, you're going to look elsewhere. Now would be the time for them to kind of step up their writing, their creative processes, and they just haven't done it. I have not been interested in it for well over a year.
Okay.
so I can't comment too much on the current product, but AEW, I don't know if it'll be them, but if yes, they are getting ready to sell. I don't
Okay.
think it's ever going to end up with Triple H controlling it. I don't think it's going to end up with Stephanie or Shane controlling it all. Yes, I think Vince will eventually sell it 100%.
Now, do you think this is something that we're going to see? Like, if you had to guess, would it be like within the next 5 years, or
Yes,
okay?
yes.
You think within 5 years? Okay. Yeah.
I see no, and that may be in pushing it. I would say maybe even 2 to 3.
2 to 3 years. Okay. You went digital there for a second. We kind of broke up. So
Sorry.
well, that's just the stream tonight. I don't know. It seems a little goofy, but that's okay. So 2 to 3 years. Okay. That's
I
an
think so.
It's an interesting take. I think that we're gonna. I think it's the winds of change are among us, and I think that they're ready to go. I think that they've really kind of put all now they have Peacock is really a third party streaming service. They don't own it, right? They don't own it because it's not the network
Right.
anymore. But I think long live physical media. I think that's I'm happy that I bought all of the ones that I did when I did, and it's
Yeah.
great that you have those, and sure you're missing lots of stuff, but at the same time it's just like I don't know, it feels sad. Like it really feels like it's sort of the end of an era, and just kind of like, okay, well, this was coming. But Coliseum Video has been around since 1985, so they're
Yeah.
quickly eclipsing 40 years of their home video sort of thing. But yeah, it's kind of sad. But at the same time, hold on to those things, right? Because you may need to
I,
put your kids through college someday, selling Royal Rumble.
well, and that may very well be the case. Some of that stuff that's super desirable, people are going to pay top dollar for. It's silly because it seems like wrestling fans, just from an income level, a financial level, they bat no eyelashes at throwing down money for product, be it any kind of belts or T-shirts or physical media. It just really seems silly. Like it just really seems silly that would be the thing that you would cut out. But I guess you know. I guess if you're going to cut something out, does that even make sense though? That you would cut that out?
Well,
I mean, the T-shirts obviously you're not going to, but if you have to trim the fat, I guess that's what would make somewhat sense to cut.
But I think if we look at it from the standpoint of you don't have to worry about packaging. You don't have to worry about delays. You don't have to worry about, the shipping, whatever the case. If they're making the DVDs overseas, which in most cases they are, and then to get that product to the United States, it makes sense that if we have it for streaming, it basically costs them $0 to do that, because all you have to do is you just have to have your server, right? You put it on there and it's done. You don't have to go, and there's not that process where you have to pay somebody to design the artwork for the thing. Okay, hey, let's make sure this is right, the quality check, things like that. There's so many different steps along the way that this is basically, they would much rather you just go out and click on it, and it's that, you know what I mean? And they're getting your $10 a month, or I don't even know, was Peacock $5 a month, or is it $10 a month? Or
I think it's 10,
Okay.
but don't hold me to it. The network was $9.99, and that was amazing. That was fantastic. Maybe they'll move to an on demand. If they have some of that old ECW stuff from like 95, 96, and it's Heat Wave or whatnot, that's on demand for $5 for a disc, I would. There's several things I would gladly pay for.
Hey, Craig's on. He said, "I'm late. Tune in the middle of the wrestling conversation." It's good to have you here, Craig. Happy Tuesday.
What's up, Craig?
I would be interested to hear what Craig's thoughts are on this as well too. He said, "Let me tell you, being a collector of older DVDs and VHS, this wrestling hobby is going to kill me financially." I mean, yeah.
See what I mean? I mean, it's an expensive hobby, man, and
yeah,
people love it, man. People absolutely love it. Wrestling fans are wrestling fans.
I think, to me though, there's not a lot of stuff that I don't have though. That's out there that I don't already have. So I know that some of the
Mhm.
Blu-ray stuff that those had, extra matches on them and things like that. But like, aside from like actually having episodes of Raw or Monday Nitro, it's one of those things that's just like you couldn't get those, right? There was like the best of
Right.
and things like that, but you could never actually get like if they would put out a box set that would be every single night, for a year or
Oh
whatever,
gosh.
I would buy it. I don't care if it was $300. I'd buy it, right? Or
But
you'd let
but
somebody
here's the
else buy
thing.
it, and then you would get it used for $150, right?
But here's the thing though, we're kind of moving in Grateful Dead vinyl territory. It's like, the Grateful Dead, as we've talked about several times, they're not really, it's
Right.
not really a good idea to have an entire Grateful Dead show on vinyl, just because it's too long, it's too vast, and you'd have too many discs, and the time limitation. Well, the same thing with if you were going to put out an entire year of, let's say, WCW Monday Nitro with the pay-per-views from '97. I mean, yeah, you're talking probably $500. But with that being said, I mean, you and I would think long and hard about pulling the trigger on something like that, just because it's like, this is an entire season, so to speak, on something. So, you know,
Yeah, I
maybe that's
mean,
not an awful idea now that I'm saying it out loud.
if you think about, my brother and I were talking about, old TV shows, and like Columbo has like you can
Mhm.
get like the entire Columbo collection, which is I think like I don't know how many seasons it is, but it's something like 36 DVDs. Like that's not an exaggeration. Like that's the actual number. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
if you can put 36, I mean, I know that some of they did some of the shows were 2 hours and 3 hours, and of course that would be a lot. But if you can put out Columbo on a box set, you can definitely put out Monday Nitro. So
that's right.
yeah. But I wouldn't think twice about it. If tomorrow if they
Yeah.
said
So,
you'll have the Monday Nitro on DVD, I would buy it. No questions asked. So
so there you go.
Steven, show and tell. What were you listening to this week?
Okay. Well, we kind of talked about it a little bit, but really, the Turtles and Raymond Zarek was kind of. I dove deep into Raymond Zarek post Doors this week. I mean, that's why, I don't know, but we got a lot to talk about with that, and I'm so curious to hear your thoughts on it as well.
Okay, so
So,
if we want to go ahead and start with that,
unless you have anything,
are you having trouble hearing me?
no, you sound fine.
Okay, I was gonna say because I know that it seems like it's a little laggy tonight. So sorry everybody that's watching from home or wherever you're watching, driving down the road. It just seems
Hopefully, not watching driving down the road.
steering with your knee and driving and watching us. Yeah, so let's talk about Ray. So like Ray, so let's start July of '72. Full Circle comes out, and then in March of '74, the Golden Scarab comes out. So,
Yes. So
what's your thoughts?
March. Well, at first I think it's kind of easy to dismiss this record. And I bought the next one. I bought these together at my local record store. I can
Okay.
tell you when. It was October of 2007 because I still have this sticker on it.
Okay. How much
And
were
I
they?
remember when $6 each.
Okay.
And they're great. They look like they'd never been played, which,
Because they
shocker,
probably haven't, right?
right? They spun it once or twice, and they probably thought, okay, that's enough of that. But when I bought them, the store clerk was like, "Okay, you must be a big Dorsey to be picking these up." And I'm like, "Hey, they're cheap. I want to hear them." So yes, March 25th, 1974, Ray releases the Golden Scarab, and it's got some pretty stellar musicians on it. You've got Tony Williams on drums, who played with Miles Davis and just about everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
You've got let's see, Patti Smith actually
Really?
Does a vocal. Yeah, she's on. She has the vocals on "Wake Up Screaming."
Okay, I didn't see
So
that.
let's see here. So it's hard to describe this album. There's jazz elements, but I think there's going to be jazz elements to it just because you've got Tony Williams on it. But really, I think
one thing I think we should mention too is it was produced by Bruce Botnick. So right, is it Bruce Botnick or is it Paul Rothchild?
Okay.
Who's it produced by? It should say on the back.
Bruce Botnick.
Okay, so Bruce Botnick did which he did. He did some of the Doors albums. I think he actually might have been on all of them. It was like he was like an assistant engineer or something like that. He might have been the engineer, and then Paul Rothchild was the producer. But I think the one thing to keep in mind with this album is it's sort of like that Ray Manzarek getting to make a Ray Manzarek record, right? I think if we think about it that way, I think is a really
does he?
Okay.
But does
right.
he?
Okay.
But does he really make a Ray Manzarek record?
Okay, talk to
because
me.
if you like the two post Morrison albums, I don't think this is too terribly far removed.
It's not too far.
Sure. Yeah. So, but even then, is he really making a solo record? Because there's a lot of songs. There's a lot of cool stuff that's going on this record too. Like Solar Boat is probably the best song on this album.
Yeah.
And he even brings up, let's take a moonlight drive on a tightrope ride into the sun. So he's name checking, three door songs.
Yep.
So, is this really a Ray Manzarek solo album, or is this just Ray Manzarek continuing on what they were doing with other voices in Full Circle?
No, I think that's a pretty good way to sum it up. I think it's if Ray had his way, you look at in a way it is sort of self-serving. How it's like I always felt that Ray was always sort of like very introspective, as Jim was too, but I feel like I think all those guys were, but I think Ray was like he was right there behind Jim, right? So I think that
sure.
we get this on this album where he's talking about William Blake and Nietzsche and Sigmund Freud, you know what I mean? Like he's
all on the Solar Boat.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So there's all these and of course, William Blake was he was as much of an influence into the Doors as anybody else was, right? So I think that there's that interesting little tidbit. You're right, that's the strongest song on the album. I'd say it's good. If you had to pick one Ray solo album, I would go with the Golden Scarab. I think that one is, I think it has its moments, and it's enough that it's not too far of a stretch, right?
Yes, I would agree, but I think his best album is still a couple of albums removed. But out of the two solo albums that he has, yes, the Golden Scarab yes, for sure. The title cut is really cool. It's funky. They're jamming. I kind of get some Sun Ra vibes from it a little bit. Yes. In Memphis, I kind of get a little Sun Ra, almost like a little bit of, I don't know if it's the Egyptian thing, but right. Blues for Allah, like I get a little bit of that too with it. But yes, it's decent. And the Moorish Idol, I mean, it's pure prog. I mean, that's ELP. It was fashionable during the day. It's the album is kind of all over the place a little bit. But then again, so was Full Circle and other voices. They've got some rockin' songs on it. They've got some jazzy stuff. They've got borderline progressive rock things going on there. So yeah, it's a good record. It's not great. It's not life altering, but it's good. Like you said earlier, Solar Boat is definitely far and away the best song on the album.
If you bought all the Doors albums and you're still looking for something else to just pique your interest, it's a great album to fill that void.
Pick it, yeah. It really is. It's so yeah. I recommend it. I recommend it for sure.
So let's talk about now also released in 1974. So
74 exactly.
The whole thing started with rock and roll, and now it's out of control. I think this is a terrible record. I think it's
okay.
It's a little too heavy on the synthesizers. This is Ray Manzarek discovered.
What makes you say that, Mark?
Synthesizers.
What makes you say it's too heavy on the synthesizers?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So he, and it's I don't know. It's a little where at least I feel like the Golden Scarab has somewhat of a direction to it. This album is pretty directionless, I think. So, your thoughts on
it? Yes, I agree. Especially the side two. It starts off as okay. This is the second record. And it quickly turns into an endurance test.
Right.
And that's that's about the best way I can. The best way I can. Describe it, and I think the Patti Smith is actually on this record, not the first one, so that's my bad. She's on Wake Up Screaming, so that was my mistake.
Okay,
yes,
that would make sense. Why
so. I
had that record, and
okay,
I think I played it the whole way through maybe once, and that was it. If it was twice, I don't know. I know I listened to the title track quite a bit, but I didn't.
Yeah.
Outside of that, there wasn't anything on there that I was like, I need to listen to this record again.
Well, The Gambler is really cool, the second song, and that's more.
You got to know when to. No,
yeah, exactly. It's that song. That's definitely more in line with like the Piano Bird and Vertilac and things like that. That were off of Full Circle. So I like that song a lot. That is far and away the best song on the record. But you've got some stuff like, my goodness, like Bicentennial Blues. Yeah, I mean, Perfume Garden starts off as a nice pop song, but it quickly turns and takes a dark turn. But the title cut is terrible, and you know who's on that, right? You know who's singing background vocals? Mm-mm. Somebody we're going to talk about very soon, okay. Flo and Eddie.
Oh, okay, all right.
So you've got Flo and Eddie, and Joe Walsh plays guitar on a few songs.
Okay.
So, but yeah, and I kind of feel like The Gambler is again him channeling his best Jim. It's his best Jim impersonation. But yes, this album is a tough listen to, and this was the last Ray Manzarek solo album for a little while.
Well, and I think he never really like got over that. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't know. It's difficult to say how you would, right? But like, I don't think he ever got over Jim's death. I think that was pretty.
Well,
it was pretty. Of all the people in the world, it was difficult for him for sure.
Well, and I think there's a strong friendship and a strong bond there, but then also too, I mean, that's your livelihood too.
Yeah.
And people when you buy a Ray Manzarek solo album, you're not necessarily buying it for Ray Manzarek. You're buying it to hear more Doors-ish stuff.
Exactly.
So. And so I kind of think he knew his
album is this bad. I'm definitely going to check it out. It's all on YouTube. Don't buy it, unless you're a completist. But yeah, it's on YouTube if you want to listen to it.
Yeah.
I mean, and again, like I said, I would say out of all of Ray's albums, it's probably, in my opinion, probably the worst. I mean, I would listen to Carmina Burana. I would listen to that.
Oh, come on.
I would listen to it.
No,
I would listen to
the whole thing started?
Yeah.
No, I don't agree with that. No way, Jose. Okay, no.
Just one guy's
There's no
opinion.
way.
Just one guy. I like classical music. I like, we talked about this.
So briefly. Do I, but that's not classical music. That's just trash.
It's avant-garde. Yeah. I don't know. That's
Yeah.
that's my thoughts.
Okay. Well,
Just,
hey,
just one guy's
we'll
opinion on Ray Manzarek's solo albums.
and we'll agree. Can we both agree that there are better records to listen to than either one of those?
Right, or all three of them for that matter. Right?
Like Night City.
Okay. So here's the thing. Let's talk about Night City real quick. So,
All right.
so I saw that in the record store, and
Let's look at this cover.
hold
Oh
it
my
at your
gosh.
chest.
What kind of
Hold it at your chest.
what kind of
There you
look
go.
at those eyes. Look
this-
at those eyes.
So this came out in '77. We're not sure when exactly in '77.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of information about these records out there.
Yeah, I mean which is kind of a shame. Like it's kind of, you look at, what 6 years prior to this album coming out, he's recording L.A. Woman, right? And now
It's wild to think about.
yeah. So let's talk just real quick about labels and stuff like that. So those first two solo albums, he's on Mercury. So he's on
Mercury Records, yeah.
He's on Mercury, and then for the two Night City albums we're going to talk about, he's on 20th Century.
I don't know about the second album. The first record, yes, but the second album,
they're both on 20th
percent
Century.
sure. They're both on 20th Century. Okay.
Yeah. So I saw this at a record store, and I think the best way to describe it is like Ray Manzarek sort of doing power pop, I guess you could say. Like, what band would be, if you could say, that would be close? Like, I don't want to say Big Star because I know everybody, that's not.
No.
But it's sort of like, but I get that vibe with it. I get that like that '70s rock sort of like that sort of.
Honestly, stuff like Foreigner and like Ted Nugent's kind of stuff that he did in the '70s, like maybe not as heavy as guitar, but definitely like. Yeah, I mean, kind of Foreigners, especially with the second record. But this one, yeah, there's especially on side two, like tunes like "Caught in a Panic" and "A Bitter Sky Blue." Yeah, I would say those are. I mean, that's power pop. I would say that it's got a sprinkling of maybe a hint of Cheap Trick with it, and maybe
it's
a
sort
little
of that
bit
arena
of
rock, like that. Like it's
yeah.
It's not so guitar driven though. It's not like bands like REO Speedwagon or like, you know what I mean, like where you expect like verse chorus solo verse chorus,
right.
You know what I mean, like that kind of thing. Like it's not like that, but it's kind of like that. It's like
have you ever heard the band Stars?
Yes.
Okay, so Stars would be something that I would compare it to, or maybe like Angel or something like that. That would be kind of where I would put this album in. Like, it's not heavy as guitar, like you said, but I mean, it's rock. It's not hard rock. It's a rock album, if that makes any sense.
Exactly. It's like I would say it's like second tier arena rock, like bands that would open for Cheap Trick or Foreigner, right? Like that would be more so what it is. But like, so I found that album and I got rid of it. Again, it's one of those ones that I was like, I'm not going to listen to this as much as I was like, this is awesome. This is Ray's solo album. I never see this album anywhere. And then you and I were talking about The Doors. I don't know. Was that almost like 2 years ago now at this point? And I was like,
yeah.
Have you ever heard of Night City? And then you were like, Night City, this is awesome. And then you went and picked up that record. So
yeah, found it on eBay for like, I think like $6-7 shipped. So yeah, I jumped all over it. Holy smoke! They've been up for days. Let's just say that they've been up for days. That is that what it is?
Well, it seems like, and it seems like too, like the more I read about them, they were. They toured a lot, right? Like they were kind of road dogs, like they were road dogging it, trying to kind of make things happen. And I think that like in a place like Detroit or something like that, they played. And wasn't that where that live show was from? Was in Detroit, or is that?
I think so. And there's. I think it was Detroit. I think it was somewhere in that area. But yeah, there's stuff from like the Whiskey a Go Go and things like that. Like there's a couple of pretty rough sounding bootlegs that are online. If you so happen to want to check this band out, but they do play a couple of Ray's solo songs, like The Gambler.
Okay, I didn't know that.
So. Or maybe that was so. Like, here's the thing: around this time, Ray was touring with Ray Manzarek, and he was touring with Night City. So there's a lot of stuff that's kind of, which band is this kind of a thing.
Okay. Well, and
So
I feel that on that record too. Like it's like the guy that was singing the lead vocals on it. It really isn't like frontman material. Like you don't have
no,
and that's some of those bands that you just have. Hey, this is the guy, and he has the vocals and he belts it out and everything. And I don't feel like that with that.
well, if you look at the cover, especially if you look at the back cover, I mean, Ray looks about 10 years older than these guys.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, he's kind of like almost like a Ed Cassidy, a spirit,
Right.
like he's a few years older than the other guys. So I kind of get that too. But the thing I like about it is at least on the first album, there obviously Ray's picture is on the front, of course, but there's no, it's not billed as the Raymond Zareks
Night City.
He's listed third, and it's not alphabetical or anything like that. He's listed third on the back of the musicians playing on it. So yeah, I kind of think that it was an honest try at doing something, finally shedding that Doors skin and kind of like, all right, it's done, it's over with, let me try to finally move on and let me try something different.
Yeah. No,
and I think he quickly found out that, he's more or less pigeonholed.
Right. Yeah. And the same thing happened with John Densmore and Robbie Krieger. There's the two albums that they put out as the Butts Band. And sure, they were good records, but they were just whatever. I think they were on ABC Paramount, I think is what label they were on. And again, that's just sort of like that's not like a huge top tier record label. It's really just kind of a subsidiary. You know what I mean? So yeah. And that second Night City album is very bizarre. The tune America, I think, is the the way that album ends. It's like it's like an epic. That's like, I know you don't like that word, but
it sounds like Elton John. Like
yeah.
Like I get Philadelphia Freedom or like Brown Dirt Cowboy, like Captain Fantastic vibes from it. Like it's really odd where that album ends. Most albums begin,
right.
And the thing about the second album, Golden Days and Diamond Nights, it was released only in West Germany.
Oh, really? Okay, so that makes sense. Why? Okay.
Nobody's ever seen it. It was released in '78, so just a year later.
Interesting. Okay.
Different musicians on this album. They've got a new vocalist. I believe they've got maybe that's the only departure, but they got a different vocalist, and that helps a lot in that department. No shade thrown at the original lead singer, but this album is. All right, so I listened to this record for the first time yesterday, and I remember I was texting you and saying, I'm doing this for the show and all this kind of stuff, and I was 2 songs in, and I was not feeling this album at all, but I stuck with it, and I tell you what, once you get to side 2 of this album, it's awesome.
Yeah,
it's the best thing Ray ever did post Doors.
Yeah, I agree.
It's the, this is stuff like Die High. Like, this band can rock. Like, they show you they can rock if they can really rock. It's like, hey, and again, that's in the middle of the record. It's finally like, okay, finally there's some life with this record. These guys are cooking. Barcelona's got a cool little jam. It's definitely keyboard driven. I don't think it would be out of the way to put that on like a Return to Forever album or something like that. And then, like you said, America, it's got like Elton John, Who, Quadrophenia area vibes to it.
It's like, I know that it sounds kind of cliche here, but like that song could have been like an American anthem. Like if like Ray didn't drop an F-bomb at the end of it, like it could have just been like, this is a song that we play on the 4th of July, and it's great because it's sort of like an American travel log where he's talking about I'm here, and I was waiting for him to come up with Pennsylvania, but that never happened. So he was he's naming all the states like New Jersey.
Well, he doesn't say South Carolina.
No, he doesn't say South Carolina either.
He doesn't say South Carolina either, if that makes you feel better.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's Yeah, I was so ready to trash this album upon first listening, but I stuck with it, man. And I tell you again, that second side is your reward for putting up with that first side. Like both of these albums, and again, I think I said on the first Night City, I really enjoyed Caught in a Panic and Bitter Sky Blue, and that's the second and third song on the album, or excuse me, on side two. The sequencing of both these albums is horrendous.
Oh yeah,
they're absolutely terrible. The sequencing is so off, and you get so many slow, just kind of, I don't even want to say brooding, because that, it means you're building to something, but you just get so many slow monotone songs that they just all kind of dovetail into each other. You just get so sick of it so quick. But man, these albums could do with just kind of a reshuffling of the tunes, and the track listing would do both these albums, I think, a world of good.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting to say too, the kind of the importance of 1978 is that's when American Prayer comes out. So to me, that's sort of like that was the rest of the guys in the Doors sort of getting the Doors through the 70s. And then, of course, in the 80s, they released the greatest hits. And I think a lot of the things they're doing are a little more fruitful for them than what I think they all just tried to kind of like, I want to continue to be an artist, and I want to be, in the forefront. And I think that, they put out some questionable stuff during that time frame. So.
Yeah, but it's also kind of, I don't want to say sad, because that's too strong of a term for it, but it's just kind of, I guess, deflating that it's like, you've got Ray, who's got 4 albums in since Full Circle. He has cranked out 2 solo albums and 2 albums, actually 3 albums, including a live one with Night City. So the guy's got 5 records. Okay, the guy is and he's done that in how many years? When did Full Circle come out? 72, 73?
Yep.
So he's cranked out these albums, and like you said, you had the Butts Band with Krieger and Densmore, and they go right back to the Doors. Well, because again, I think they kind of know, like, all right, this is where
that's their meal ticket.
This is where our bread's buttered,
right? That's the meal ticket. Yeah.
So, which is kind of a shame, because I think those guys, all 3 individually, are so strong on their own. Yeah. I just think just through maybe not the best marketing, maybe not the best promotional stuff, and honestly, maybe not the best musicians that they could have surrounded themselves with. And it's really sad, because I admire all 3 of them individually as artists and musicians on their own, and it's just a shame that they could never really kind of get over that hump. But if you have a lead singer that is so iconic as Jim Morrison, I think it's darn near impossible, and it kind of proved it too.
Yeah. Well, and I think that if you look at I think like somebody like Ray has better sort of gone in the direction of jazz, right? Like just gone in there and just played jazz. And I think that would have been, I think his legacy as a musician would have been a little bit different had that have been an avenue that he pursued. But again, he didn't, right? He wanted to kind of stay. I think he knew that, there's money in rock and roll, and he didn't want to be a jazz guy and things like that. And I think that, by the time that we got around to the middle of the 80s, he realized, he was doing, in 1980, he produced the first 4 X records with John Doe, right? That, I'm sure you're familiar with that, right? So like he was doing that.
Yes.
And then of course, like, we talked about this today, he hooked up with that going, the Bunnymen, that was in 87. And then a couple of years later, it's, the Doors movie comes out. And to me, that's like the beginning of just everything, right? That's like the second wave of, the Doors. And really the last 20 years have been, with their 40th anniversary, campaigns that they've been doing, and just, they've released every single thing that they could possibly do under the Doors moniker. So,
well, and then they got back to with the 21st Century Doors, and so they finally, I guess, kind of brought it back full circle, no pun intended. But they came back because they knew, like, all right, this is our meal ticket. This is more or less what we have to do.
Yeah. So that's it. I think that's what we wanted to talk about Ray, right? We just wanted to talk about those albums. So,
but do yourself a favor. Start with Die High off of Golden Days and Diamond Nights from
Craig said he's sold. He says he's going to be checking out Night City. Said he
they're,
yeah, he saw the first album and he never bothered to check it out. I think it's worth, if you can get it for under $10. I think it's a good curiosity just to kind of like just to have. I bought those Butts Bands records, listened to them a couple of times, but there really wasn't any point in me kind of keeping them. So I sent them on their way. So yeah, I think that the Golden Scarab though is definitely something that you want. Like that's you want
that and the second Night City record. Yeah. I would say that's good, and let us know what you think.
Yeah. So let's talk about. I brought this one. You didn't have anything else to show, right? We were just going to talk about this Ray Manzarek.
I didn't. No, that was it.
We wanted to talk about the Turtles, Battle of the Band.
Turtle. Am I not turtle enough for the Turtle Club?
Oh man, what a weird movie. Anyhow, that was Dana Carvey, right? Dana Carvey?
Master of Disguise. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. This is an interesting album. In 1968, the Turtles present the Battle of the Bands, and it's like a concept album, which is pretty cool.
I love the concept.
Right. Do you have a physical
copy? What a cool
copy
concept.
Of this?
I used to. I don't know what I've done with the record.
You've seen the inside?
Yeah.
Like
yeah, with all the bands and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
So sort of the thing that they were doing with this album was that it's like a true battle of the bands where there's basically 11 different bands. Am I right? No.
I think there's 12.
Well, there's let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and then the last one is everybody. That's what that the closing thing is, or whatever. So it's 13. You're right. So yeah, like so each song kind of takes on sort of a different genre of music, which I think is crazy to think about. You know what I mean? Like
it's so what a cool concept this is, right? How cool is that?
This is what the next to the last. Turtle Soup was the last Turtles record, but this is the next to the last.
Yes.
What Jim Pons is in this one too, right? Jim Pons.
I believe so. On
bass. Went on to play with Frank Zappa, and I think the interesting thing too was is that in Freak Out? There's like the little blurb from the guy that was like some DJ in LA that said like I can mold you and I can make you, like he told Frank Zappa like I can make you be like the Turtles, and then like sure enough like 2 or 3 years later basically all the guys in the Turtles are in Frank Zappa's band. I think that's in that. I think that blurb is in Freak Out. I'll have to look at that. Have you ever seen that before?
Yeah. Yes. Okay.
I think
I know what you're talking about.
I think that's the one it is. But one of my favorite songs off here, and you can talk about your favorite songs, but like Buzzsaw is one of my favorite songs in there.
Yes.
I have it on 45, which I think it's probably the flip to, I think either Eleanor or You Showed Me, or I don't know if it was a double A side. I didn't really do too much 45 research on this, but when I would DJ, that was sort of one that I would play because it was like nobody knew who it was, and it was basically an instrumental other than Buzzsaw. It was just fun to sort of play that one. But yeah, this is just a really weird, like it's almost like you wish that like other bands would do that. Like if like Pink Floyd would record an album like this, or I don't know who else, but I love. The more I listened to this week, I was like, yeah, this is a fantastic record. The more I enjoyed it.
And that's the thing. It bears your attention listening to it, and I think that the more you listen to it, the more you fall in love with it, and that's such a fun record. I wish they would have done more country stuff. Like I would have loved for them to do like a Sweetheart of the Rodeo.
Right.
Yeah, I really do, because Chicken Little was right. It's probably my favorite tune off of it.
Yeah. Well,
You know,
the other one that they did with the country band is the Too Much Hearts. Yeah,
yeah,
that's the other one. That's
which I think is great, which I think is so great. And again, I wish they had more. And those are my favorite tunes off of it. Um, uh, I wish they would have done like a country-ish "Sweetheart of the Rodeo." If they would have pulled that off, I'd have been a happy camper.
yeah. It's funny, and it's a funny album. Like even like the one like the song. There's a lot of puns on the album too, which is interesting. Like
Yeah,
even with food, where they're doing like a recipe for brownies and stuff like that.
just
I mean, it's just I think it's funny, and of course, what is it?
come on, you want to let you.
Come on, I wanna lay. Yeah, that one is
Yeah, yeah.
that's pretty good.
Which kind of lives, which kind of like, yeah. No wonder they joined Frank Zappa later on. It's like, yeah, of
Exactly.
course. With
And you know, and
you know,
that's the thing I thought about when I was listening to this is like it just really, it sort of like makes that transition like I was listening to this and I was like, okay, which bands are they spoofing here? You know what I mean? Like I was kind of like, okay, which like just trying to like really think about it and like in a way like you really can't tell. Like it's like okay, it's sort of a genre.
themselves.
Yeah, it was kind of a genre, but it's like they don't. There's not like a specific band. Like you can't be like, oh, they're making fun of the Birds here, or oh, they're making fun of whoever here. Um, so the hits on here, right? So we got Eleanor's on here, which everybody
Eleanor, which
knows.
is a good song. It's a great
Yeah.
song. Yeah,
And then of course you showed me, which was
Birds
written,
cover.
yeah, which was exactly written by Roger McGuinn and Gene Clark, and that was like their last big hit that they ever had with
Mm.
the Turtles. So, yeah, man, they're an interesting band. Like they sort of fit in a weird spot. They only had what 5 albums, right? And mostly a singles band. Happy Together, that album's like 27 minutes long. Every song, and there's like 2 minutes and 15 seconds. You know what I mean? Like they never. I don't know, and also produced by Chip Douglas, who was doing stuff with the Monkees. I don't know if you knew that or not. So,
Okay.
so
No, I
that's
did
sort of
not.
why
Okay.
there's that little bit of you can kind of tell like that real pop sensibility on here. So, um, real quick, I wanted to pump the brakes. We got 6 people in the chat, Steve. Ooh,
Oh,
it's
look at
getting
that.
crazy. So hey, if you're joining us tonight, say hi. It's nice to have you on. Um,
Thank you for joining us.
do you like the Turtles, the Battle of the Bands? It's a fun record for sure. Anything
Super
else you
fun.
wanted to
Yeah.
talk about this record?
No, it's I wish more people knew about it. Earth Anthem, I mean, that could be maybe not a psychedelic classic, but definitely I think kind of teetering a little bit. I think it's really kind of interesting what they do. But yeah, that's a great record, man. That's head and shoulders above what other people were doing that at that time. And you know, it's odd because, like you said, that's that perfect bridge between that and like just another band from LA.
Right.
Like that's the stepping stone. And that's I think why, if you want to say they work so well together, that's subjective, but I think that that definitely shows you the direction that they were going, and it only makes sense that they would have joined Frank Zappa.
Yeah, like it's weird. It's weird enough that it can be sort of that easy step over to sort of Zappa and all that, but at the same time, it's sort of safe enough that like you can buy and just say okay. It reminds me a lot of sort of like the Love and Spoonful kind of like
Yes.
you get that sort of like sense from the Turtles where they're like they were a safe band but at the same time they were just sort of jokesters and not necessarily taking themselves too seriously. They were probably just like so happy that they were doing hits and they kept having hits and they were just like okay, this is a lot of fun just doing this. But um
We'll give you the
yeah.
hit single, but we're gonna keep the album. We're gonna be in charge of the record.
So a couple from Craig here. He said, when it comes to the Turtles, I've only got golden hits and turtle soup. I've seen that cover so many times, but never heard it. Next time I come across it, I'm gonna snag it. Good
Well,
on you,
good,
Craig.
good. I
Good
think
on you,
you'll
Craig.
enjoy it. Yeah,
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 and
man.
even too, like on CD, like just like the Love and Spoonful, they've remastered all the Turtles albums, like to just
Oh, have they?
they filled out and they're all filled out with like bonus tracks and all kinds of all kinds of good stuff. So if you're a
Okay.
fan of them, that's one band that like I need to go through and I just need to like scoop up all those CDs. Hopefully I can just get them cheap and stuff like that because really, they are a band that I feel like their greatest hits is usually like, the one where they're sort of like laying on a road. Do you know what I'm talking about? I'm sure you've
Yes.
seen the cover.
Yeah.
Like, you used to see that one all the time. I think it's the first one that Rhino put out, like in the '80s, right? They were one of those bands that that Rhino sort of really latched onto, and you'd always hear "Happy Together" on the Time Life music stuff and all that. So yeah, that's some good stuff. So cool. Final thoughts on Turtle or the Turtles, especially that
It's
album.
a great record.
Get it, man.
Yeah,
Good.
it's great. Yeah, buy it. Buy that and the second Night City record, and you're all set with this week's episode.
do your homework for this episode, exactly.
Yeah.
So we're gonna finish out the show here. We got about probably about another half an hour here. We'll keep rolling.
Yeah.
Wanted to talk about comic books, Steve. Let's talk about the pop culture impact of comic books. Um, I'll kick it over to you if you want to just kind of, how did you talk to me about the influence of comic books on your life? Um,
Well,
let's hear it.
it's one of the earliest
Okay.
influences on my life. Yeah, I grew up in a military family, so GI Joe was both the action figures and then the comic books were kind of like one of those things that I was really into as a kid, and started off reading those. And when we visited DC as a kid, I went to the Smithsonian and ended up finding a trade paperback of like the first 10 Spider-Man issues,
Okay.
and I read that on the drive home. I read that cover to cover. I just thought that was the coolest thing ever, and just kind of got into different things from there. I've got a few that I'm going to talk about, but I mean they're kind of one of those things that they've always been in my life. Like I think like everybody kind of goes, well, I don't want to say everybody, I go through kind of phase where I'm like really into baseball cards, and then I'll kind of move into records a little bit, and I'll keep all that stuff and it's all consistent. But there'll be stretches where like there'll be like a year or so where I don't have anything to do with them, and then it'll start coming back and all that. But comic books have kind of always been that steady thing. Like I was never fanatical where I would go to the newsstand and buy them you know every single month. I'd always kind of wait and go to the comic book store and get 4 or 5 issues, back issues and whatnot. But it's always been consistent in my life. Like it's something that I've never like, I'm not into that anymore. Like it's since I was like 6 years old, it's always been consistent in my life is comics.
Well, I think that, and again, I think we grew up at a time where, um, we had the pleasure of growing up in the early '90s, and I think that stuff was just really just the perfect time. Um, and I'll talk about that a little bit too. Just sort of the kind of the speculation era of the comics. Like when everybody was like, oh, we're gonna, just like how baseball cards, where people are like, oh, these really old baseball cards, save these and they're gonna be worth money. I think
Sure.
that was sort of a thing that happened. There was a lot of stuff in the early '90s where there was these moments where people were saying, buy this stuff and it's going to be worth tons of money when you're older. And part of it was true. If it was stuff that they actually said was like limited edition, that stuff is worthless now, right? But like the stuff that we didn't think of saving, that's all the stuff that's like worth tons and tons of money now. And it's just
Like your Bucky O'Hare action figures are going for ridiculous
really,
money.
are they?
Is an obscure comic. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay,
Oh
all right.
yeah.
But that's it. It's just that's
Yeah.
one of the things that are just like, well, and again, kids played with them. It's like the original Turtles figures.
Yeah.
You're just gonna take the Turtles figures and you're not gonna put them in a tub and forget about them and then sell them, right? So that.
Or lose it in the ocean like I did. I lost Master Shredder in the Atlantic Ocean. So
Well, he's probably
yeah.
floating around the big plastic thing that's floating out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. So maybe.
So yeah, I was upset. I was upset. My mom was like, "I'm sorry, it's gone.
It's gone. It's gone. So I wrote down a couple of things I just wanted to just kind of, I know we'll show some comics here in a second, but
Sure.
I just wanted to talk about, like, I think for me that time frame that was like super important for like comic books is like 1992 and 1993. And
Okay.
I know that was like when I was super involved. Like that was when comics really entered sort of my my rotation, right? So um, prior to that, of course, we know that the baseball cards, I was big into baseball cards in the 80s and, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92. And then the baseball strike happens and people don't care about baseball anymore. And then they sort of like move on to something else, right? And for me, that was comic books. I feel like that was sort of when all of that sort of started coming through. So do you remember the X-Men cartoon? Do you remember that being on TV?
Yes. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No,
So
I remember also getting
from Pizza Hut.
video cassette from Pizza
Pizza
Hut.
Hut.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. And I
Yep.
have that, and I
Yep.
was gonna show that, and I was like, I'm not gonna show VHS tapes on here, but yeah,
I haven't seen. Is it the black cover with the
yeah,
red writing?
yep.
Dude, I haven't seen that since like 1993. That's awesome.
So yeah, so there was that, right? There was like that really that to me that was like a huge push. That was Pizza Hut. That was the only kind of pizza that was existed back then, right? There wasn't any other. Maybe Little Caesars came along at some point with
Did you book it?
Oh, of course I booked it. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
I had the little badge and everything.
Between Batman comics and Book It, if it wasn't for those two things, I probably wouldn't know how to read right now. You know what I mean? So I think I think the emphasis on those two particular things are super important.
Sure.
Um,
Sure.
but so that cartoon came out. It debuted October 31st of 1992, and then in January of '93 is when the death of the Superman arc happens, and that was pretty much from January till about June. Um, and then I thought it was important to note that the Lois and Clark TV show was on September of '93. Now you watched that show, right? Did you watch that growing up?
I didn't. I wasn't a regular viewer. I watched every now and then. Although,
Okay.
as I've gotten older, Superman has become one of my favorites. But yeah, I was a casual fan of that growing up.
Okay. See, my whole family watched that. We all watched that.
Okay.
And I watched a ton of episodes. I can remember a couple. There was one where there was like these little kids that like took over, and they started putting like Monopoly money in the ATM machines and things like that.
Yeah.
And they were like, we know that Clark Kent is Superman, and he like tried to convince him that he wasn't by like breaking a glass, and then he like dipped his finger in ketchup and was like, hopefully they didn't know, they didn't like, oh yeah, Superman doesn't bleed, right? And then they'd be like, oh, I remember that episode. That was probably the one like the one that sticks out in my head the most. But I feel like that TV show was again, and I know we've talked about this before, where it was like as a kid growing up, you sort of had Star Wars, you had the Superman with Christopher Reeves, and then you had like the Michael Keaton Batman movies, and that was it. And you had like the
Right.
old Adam West, Batman shows from 1966. You had those reruns that were on FX or whatever, channel it was at the time. But like, I feel like that time frame, it was like a good time to be into comics. I don't know. What do you think? Do you have any thoughts with? I mean, I
Well,
don't know if do you know about that time frame specifically, or I mean, does that paint a picture for you at all, or no?
yeah. Well, yeah, of course. I mean, definitely the Batman movies were huge. I had, you know, I had the VHS of it. That was one of the first ones I ever got, and I had the figures and all that, and Batman was huge. So people just don't remember how huge that Tim Burton Batman film was. I mean, there was remember the breakfast cereal. I had the breakfast cereal.
Hmm.
They had glasses you could get for it. I mean,
Do you
that the
remember the
marketing
bank?
for that was everywhere.
Do you remember with the bank that was
Yes,
on the
yeah,
front of the cereal box?
yep. I sent away for that plastic bank, and yep.
Well, I know that I think you
So
could send away for it, but I think for a while they were like they would just put it in like saran wrap on the front of it. Maybe that was like when they were just trying to like we got to get rid of these. But I remember that
oh
being like
no,
on
I
the
sent
actual
away
front.
for it. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. 6 to 8 weeks delivery was like might as well have been in 30 years. You'll get this because that's how long in kid time.
Oh
That's how
my
long it
god,
is, right?
that stuff was so long.
So
Um,
yeah,
but for me, I think that was a very influential time. Um, I think there's really a couple moments in my life that are sort of important for comic books. I think one thing was that there was kind of a twofold thing where uh, I would go to church with my father, and there was they would have, okay, here's the bulletin for the service, but then they'd also have a little comic book that was like, and it wasn't like a chick track, it was just basically the story, but it was a comic. And that was sort of like, that would entice me to sort of like go with him on Sunday mornings to go to church and to get like this comic book. And I had a
Yeah.
stack of them. Like I had a stack of them, and they were pretty sizable. They were like, they were like a mini thing. They weren't like a full size comic, but it was like 8 pages. Like it was pretty sizable. Um, and then after church, we would go to the flea market, and that was sort of those moments where I would, hey, look for somebody selling comic books, and then I would get stuff for, very cheap. But I feel like that was a very important moment, and I want to share my Kmart story. I know that I've told you with it, but I'm going to put it on record here,
Okay.
since there's maybe like one Kmart store in existence anymore, so they won't come after me for doing this. But um, I'm sure you remember the comics where they would be in like the poly bag that was like the three comics for $2.99 or a
Oh
buck
yeah.
ninety
Oh
nine or
yeah.
whatever the case would be.
The,
Um,
you know that store Ollie's?
yeah.
They do that now.
Oh, they
They do
do.
that
Okay.
now. Yep.
Um, yeah. Craig is talking about. Craig has said that he had a Batman big wheel growing up, and the movie also
Nice.
has started his obsession with Prince. He had so much Batman stuff,
Oh
as
yeah.
as did every
Yeah.
kid. Like there was just so much Batman stuff out there. So anyhow, I'm sorry. So these polybagged sort of comics, for me, I remember you could get them at like the drugstore. Like the drugstore would have them. A lot of stores would have their little newsstand thing, but sometimes they would just have that squeaky rack that would be like the Archie comics, and then they'd have these in here. So Kmart had a sort of a decent size comic thing, but they did have these these bags of comics, and they were like, I think they were $2.99. And I remember for a while, I remember for, you know where this is going. I love this. This is like my
Yeah, that's why
favorite
I'm
story.
laughing.
So, so what I would, again, what we would do, friends of mine and myself, when you're a young kid, you don't really like $2.99. You think about, from the inflation side of things, back in the early '90s, that was probably like $20 now at this point. Um, so we would open up the comics because usually the cover price of the comics would never, equal up to $2.99 or whatever. But there would be, the 35-cent comics and the 40-cent comics and things like that. So this one time I went, and there a lot of the comics that were in there were, so if they sell them in the store, then they would have the barcode on them. But if it was like a subscription or the direct edition, they would just put like, like the Marvel would just put like Spider-Man's face in there. You know how they would do that? Do you got anything like that?
Yeah.
Okay, so they would.
Uh,
Do you got barcodes, or
Hold
do you
on.
got?
I'm looking like this one.
Look down at this. Move it. Well, that's awesome, man. I don't scroll up. Does it have a barcode on it? That's like a 20 center. It probably would.
Nope.
No, it wouldn't be. We'll have to save that visual for another time. That thing looks awesome, whatever that is.
Thank you.
Um,
The
um,
Tomb of Dracula, #3.
the Tomb of, yeah. Hopefully, I'm sure it's a one and done kind of comic. That was like the best part about old comics, was you didn't have to buy
Oh
every
no,
single.
that's a
Series.
that's a huge series.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
All
Oh
right.
yeah.
Well,
Pretty good one too.
teach
But
me a
anyway,
lesson on that one. So anyhow, so we would open up these comics, and I I had a hand, like maybe two or three comics. They were all like maybe $1.25 in total, and there was one that had a barcode on it, and the other ones did not. So I go up to the checkout at Kmart, and the lady goes and she scans the one with the barcode, and lo and behold, it comes up in the system, and it's like whatever it was, like 45 cents. And the other ones, like, they don't have a price tag. She can't scan them. She's like, what the heck? So she calls the manager over, and the lady's like, just ring that one up again, and just, then it's like 45 cents or whatever. So it was like actually in the
and you're like, can I get these two?
right. So the next time I go back and I try to do this again, and I had some comics that were like, like the cover price, they were like the flashy ones or whatever. They were like $1.99, and they go to do it, and they're like, ringing this up, and it's like $7, and I'm just like, no, 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 never mind, never mind. I didn't want them. I didn't want them. So, um, So that was that. So that was how I got one over on Kmart when I was a kid with that. But yeah, that was fond memories of that. There was also a grocery store that probably had like an 8 foot comic book section, and again,
Oh wow.
we're talking, this is 90. From what I can remember, this is like 94, like 1994, because I was remembering some of the comics that I would read. But do you remember when the Simpsons, like the Bongo comics, came out? Do you remember that?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So like I had a few of those Radioactive Man ones, and I would read the Simpsons ones, and they had like Itchy and Scratchy, and I forget, there's maybe like three different titles that they had. Um, so this was like 1994, and Mom would go to the grocery store, and I would just go right back to the magazines, and I would just read comics the whole entire time that she was shopping, and it was
What a deal.
that was it, man. That was so important, like when you were a kid, and it's a lost art. Like you can't do it.
Yeah.
You can't do it anymore. You go to a library or you go to a comic book store, and they're gonna be like, "This isn't a library." So,
Yeah.
um, Craig said same here with the Simpson comics. Yeah, man. That was 1994, if you can believe that was when those started coming out. So,
God
um,
almighty. Getting
so
old, man.
show me some of your stuff that you have that's influential
So,
to you.
these are just kind of ones that a few of them I grew up with, and a few of them I've kind of like gotten into as I was older. But we'll go ahead and start out with kind of one of the earlier ones that I remember. Have you read the Star Wars on the original comics?
So I
They kind
remember.
of
So 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 a couple of things. Hold that up again for a second. Okay, so you see how there's no barcode on that?
yes.
So that's like a subscription one, right? So those ones weren't worth as much as like.
No, it's yeah, and it's a reprint. I don't have
Oh,
any
it's a
like
reprint. Oh, okay.
yes, yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, it says reprint. Yeah, it's
Oh, okay.
clearly if you can
Sorry.
see right up there
Okay.
next to Luke. So,
Okay. Yeah.
but
Well, that's where this is from. This is from that's in one of the comics. Lucky I wore that
they're really
shirt.
good.
Okay.
They're really good. They introduce a lot of new characters because obviously it's before Empire Strikes Back came out, and
Okay.
they didn't have much source material. There was no thing. There was no such thing as like the Star Wars universe where
So
like
Baby Yoda
you
is
know
not in that, is what you're trying to tell me.
that is correct. That is correct. He's not, but it's they're fun. They're pretty neat. So those are some of the earliest ones that I have.
It's
So
kind
I
of
talked about
interesting. Real quick, the interesting thing about Marvel
yeah.
is that around that time they had Star Wars, and they also had Star Trek. Like Star Trek, they had a couple. So Star Trek came out first on Marvel Comics, and then it went over to
Okay.
DC. So it's interesting that they had both properties. They only had it for maybe a couple of issues, like maybe 8. It wasn't like
Okay.
a long term thing like Star Wars was. Star Wars definitely outlived that. So.
Okay. So we talked about GI Joe. I won't bore you showing those. But another one that was
Well,
kind
tell
of
your story about
along the same.
you went to the GI Joe con. Why don't you talk about that?
Yes, yeah. Well, a couple of times, and yeah, my dad and I went, and I met Larry Hama twice, and he signs for free. You can bring. I've got. I probably should have pulled them down, but on the wall, I've got 3 issues that he signed for me, and he signs them for free. He's got other stuff you can buy there, but he's a super nice guy, very, very humble, very, very nice guy to get to know. And another thing he worked on. As well is the NAM, which
Okay.
you would kind of look at it. Now, it did evolve into just being kind of a war comic, especially when they got the Punisher involved.
Right.
It kind of got really, really kind of silly. But some of these early issues, like this is the 7th issue, some of these early issues, they kind of focus on more social aspects of it as well. Like, yes, there's the blood and guts that you would expect for something.
Mm-hmm.
But, they also kind of tackle issues like racism and things like that you really wouldn't expect from a comic like this. And Larry Hama did write a little bit about this. So this is a really good issue of this comic book. I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but that was always thought kind of progressive, to inject some of the social commentary of the 60s as well as what was going on
So remind me,
overseas.
I think the Nom came out after that came out after the GI Joe comics, right? Or was it before?
Yes, no. It
Okay.
came out. They came out in like 86, 87,
Okay.
and GI Joe started in 82. So
Okay.
it was GI Joe was already well established, and that train was rolling, and it's like I said, the Nom started off is kind of as almost like a social commentary on that time. But towards the middle of it, they got Larry Hama left, and they got different writers in there, and it just kind of became just kind of really blood and guts, and just kind of didn't really have any. It's kind of like a I don't know, like a shoot 'em up video game. Didn't really have a whole lot of substance to it. Just kind of mind numbing, kind of pointless, kind of boring. But it started off really, really strong.
Well, I think too that I think one thing that's worth talking about is that that war comics have always sort of been a genre of comic books, right? So you have your
Mm.
superhero, you have your sci-fi kind of things, and even EC was doing, they would do frontline combat, right? So they would do, or is that? I'm sorry, that wasn't them. Or
Was
is
it
that
Sergeant Fury, the
yeah,
Howling
that was. I'm
Commandos?
sorry, that was the stuff that came after. I think they did stuff like that were. I can't remember some of them off the top of my head. Um,
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't think we were going to go down this way, but so there was so they did some war. EC did some war comics, and then uh, you're right, as DC basically picked up Sergeant Rock and things like that, which those are Our Army at War, Haunted Tank.
Hmm.
I mean, Sergeant Rock was, I think, what is the guy that did that? Oh my goodness. Sorry, I derailed us there by doing this.
So sorry, no, you're good. You're good.
There's a guy that has an art school that did. It's like I don't remember off the top of my head. He's like a famous art school. Joe Kubrick. Here,
Okay.
Kubrick. He has an art school that he did a lot of the Sergeant Rock stuff in the 60s and 70s and things like that. But there's not really like right now. There's not really like a war comic, right? So like I got back into comics like right around maybe 2013, 2014, and there was specific types of comics I was looking for, and the guy that owns the comic shop that's pretty close to our house. Um, I was like, yeah, like, whatever war comics. And there was like one that came out and it was just not that good. Like, it wasn't like,
Yeah.
it's a tough genre to do. And, but it looks cool. Like, that's,
Hmm.
you know what I mean? Like seeing these big spreads of, a tank blowing something up or, I mean, that's what you want to see. But they just didn't do it for me. So what else do you got besides your war comics?
So so I've got a few of those. These are really neat. Did you ever read these? These are by Revolutionary Comics.
Yeah. Yep.
So they did all kinds of bands. I mean, a lot of
I
the
think I have a
bands
Black
like they did
Sabbath one.
Kiss.
Yeah, I think I have a
They did Black
Sabbath.
Sabbath, Van Halen,
Yeah.
Def Leppard. They did one on New Kids on the Block. So they were kind of all over. But yeah, some of those Kiss ones are really kind of fun. Speaking of Marvel, here's that.
Oh wow, I've never
Yeah,
seen that before. That's really
yeah.
cool. And they
That
sort of
was
do the EC Comics thing on the
uh,
side there with the
so it's kind of a tie-in with the Alice Cooper album From the Inside.
okay.
You've got Nurse Rosetta, you've got Tales from the Inside. So it's kind of a tie-in with that album From the Inside. I'm sure you've seen it. It's a close up. It's of Alice's face, and it's got the doors on it.
Hmm.
But yeah, this is really cool. That was a Christmas present years ago
Nice.
from my wife. So yeah, I've got other things to talk about, but I mean, you want me to just keep going? Just keep
Yeah,
showing you
yeah, man. I got some
just
things to
kind
show
of
you too.
different ones? Okay.
I got some things to show you.
Okay. All right.
So tell me about how did you get into GI Joe? I think is just probably by osmosis that
Since
was just something that was cool
yeah,
that you wanted to do, right? So
I
yeah,
mean, it was just something like living, like I grew up on military bases and just kind of seeing that every day, watching the cartoon. You just kind of like you said, osmosis. There it is.
right. Yeah, cool. Now, are you a superhero kind of guy? Like, do you like superhero comic books or like?
I do.
Okay.
I do. I have some like this is obviously a reissue, but the
Okay.
first giant size X-Men, first appearance of Wolverine,
Okay.
from '75. So that's one of my all time favorites. That's so great. Another really good, and I'm sure you've read these, is Secret Wars. Like that's an amazing series. That's so good.
Did you ever get
Let
into
me see here.
Did you ever get into the what if? Do you remember those ones that were like they would
It's
take
funny.
one particular?
It's funny you should say that.
Funny you mentioned that.
Because I do have What If Spider-Man Saved Gwen Stacy,
Ooh, okay.
and I've
What
got
happened?
these are actually some. This I'm not gonna. You got to read it, homeboy. I'm not gonna spoil it for you. What if Captain America got elected president?
Oh wow, wow.
These are some of my favorites. These are,
Well, you
and
and I
this is
like
a
to do
really
that.
great issue. If you can,
We like to talk about different
yes.
timelines and all that. So that's kind of fit into that.
So these what ifs are right down my alley. If I see a what if I don't have, and it's like a buck or a buck and a half, like these are, yeah, it's coming home with me. But no, this one's really good. It's really, really kind of depressing. So it's good naturally, right? I mean,
Right.
put this in the next,
Does he
put this
lower
in Berlin
taxes?
on, and
That's
you're
what I
like,
want to know. Does he lower
he
taxes?
balances he's honest and he balances the budget. So
Interesting.
and he did
Fantasy.
no, it's yeah, exactly. But no, it's very, very, very interesting. But yeah, those what ifs are amazing. I've got tons of those. Again, a couple of
Do you remember
reissues.
what
The
Do you
first
remember when
Hulk.
they? Oh, look at that, man! What? Get out of here! That's
Yeah,
awesome.
no, it's they've put these out.
Okay.
They every month they'll put out a classic issue, and they're like $3-4.
Like
So
now,
I'll
like
pick the dude.
what's the timeline on this? Like now, or is
I,
this
I got this like 2019.
okay? All right.
So, dude, I can pick these. A super good friend of mine owns the local comic book shop here.
Okay.
He's a great guy. I can get these for you. Of course, the classic Hulk versus the Thing. I'm a big Thing fan. Oop, here we go. I'm a big Thing fan. He's one of my favorites.
Okay. So what's this True Believers? What's this line here?
So this True Believers is essentially just kind of like the repressing of it, and again, they're really cheap. I mean, these are, I don't know if you can see the barcode. These are $1.
Oh wow, really? Okay.
These are $1. They're high quality reprints. I mean, if you're going to get an original of those, you're going to take a second mortgage out on your house.
Right.
So so $1 and you can load up on them. That's okay with me. I have no problem doing that. Let me show you a couple other things. Here's another one by Revolutionary Comics, Joe Namath.
Ooh, okay.
Broadway Joe.
Nice.
So, but yeah, you look on the back of this, like, you've got Metallica, you've got Def Leppard, you've got Bob Dylan right there.
Oh, nice. That's like 80s Bob. Like
Sandy.
Yeah, that's great.
Sandy Koufax, George Brett, 91210.
Oh wow.
Can't miss that issue. So yeah, those are really fun. All right, let's go. Let me see. I'll have this a bit of transition. All right, one of my favorite superheroes, Moon Knight. Are you familiar with Moon Knight?
I know of it, but
no,
I can't. I couldn't give you the premise of it.
So his father was a rabbi, and
we
was
have 5 people
Marine.
watching right now, by the way. So
okay, hey, all right.
Wow, with your Moon Knight knowledge.
So,
father was a rabbi. Go ahead.
Father was a rabbi. He's a former Marine, but he was kind of conflicted about the violence. He was like, you don't believe in war, but what's that gun you're toting, kind of a thing. See, I got to tie it back in, right? I got to tie it. I got to tie it right back in. If I can get a baseball reference in there, we'll bring it full circle. So anyway, he dies and he meets this Egyptian god, and it gives him, he is the Knight of the Moon, and so he goes around and kind of defeats bad guys and evildoers and jaywalkers and all that kind of stuff. So it's really great. I think Moon Knight's really great. All right, so I've already talked about my love of the Thing. Let's go with other kind of big, giant, ugly things I like, and it's Man Thing.
Okay, all right.
Man Thing. In all sincerity, here, this is awesome. It's like Swamp Thing,
right? It's the Marvel Comics Swamp Thing, yeah.
Right. That's and it's amazing. It's so great. It's so great. So now let's let's get some spooky stuff. We got Godzilla, King of the Monsters,
Oh wow.
issue number 1. So I'm a big Godzilla fan. So this is right down my alley. I've already shown you this.
Yep.
The Tomb of Dracula. These are really great. These are all really, really cool. Are you familiar with this is Scary Tales?
Oh, that's great on the Charlton Comics. Yeah. Very
Yep,
nice.
you got it.
Very nice.
So those are all really fun. These are really great. If you can find these, pick these up. This is Weird Tales of War. This was kind of a series on DC.
Yes,
and it's just
I
all
know
this.
exactly what that is. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So they've got a cool one that's kind of got like a Planet of the Apes thing going on, but it takes place in World War II, and it's just they're just off the walls. They're just a whole lot of fun. And as I knock things over, Scary Haunted Love.
Oh,
baby.
dude. Okay.
Haunted Love.
So take a step back. Take a big step back here.
Take a big step back and take another step back.
So my question to you is, did you get every copy of Haunted Horror and every copy of Weird Love? Did you get those?
Of course I did, Mark. You know me better than that.
You have those. That's amazing. Because
yes.
Because your boy also has all of that. I got every single one of those as well too. That's amazing.
My man.
That's amazing. I had no idea that.
See what we got going on here?
I have.
Yeah.
So that was one of the things I was going
to
show.
These are so great.
They're amazing.
These are so great.
They're amazing.
So great.
They're absolutely
if you like
amazing.
Creepshow, you like this. If you like this, you should like Creepshow. Both of them. All right, last one I'm going to show.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm being rude.
No. You go because I gotta dig something out to blow your mind.
Here's our baseball tie, and I told you I'd bring it full circle. Brooks Robinson. I wish I would have had him sign this. But
how long have you had that?
Oh God, I don't know. Since I was like 10.
Oh, you've had it for a while.
As long as I've been in Orioles. Oh yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Dude.
All right. Let me look here. Let me look here. All right, Mark. I'm gonna be done here in a few minutes, but you got me all riled up. All right, here I got. So this is what Kiss did in 1998 was the Psycho Circus comments. I've got just about all of them.
Before you go any further with that, so did you ever read Wizard magazine in the 90s?
Oh, I had a subscription to it.
Okay, I did
that
too.
and Toy Fair I had subscriptions to. Yeah.
Yeah, we're down to 2 people watching now, so nobody did. Craig, are you
I'm
still
sorry.
there?
All
Craig,
right,
you still there? Yeah.
All right.
We're nerding out with stuff that people don't want us to talk about. That's okay. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh well.
I had a subscription too. We'll have to talk about that because I was like going through and trying to think about when that I had a subscription to it. But remember how they used to like throw all those extra goodies in there, and that was just like, yeah, man, that was
to pull out posters and all that
exactly.
stuff.
I had a little Kiss. Like they had like a mini like Kiss Zero that was like 4 or 5 pages.
Yeah.
It was a little. Do you remember that one that came out?
Yeah. Yes, I do. So, all right. So this is the last thing I'm going to talk about. These came out in 2019, 2018, maybe 2017. Anyway, just a couple years old. These are Spider-Man life stories.
Okay.
These are some of the best Spider-Man comics to come out, and I don't know how long, but the first one takes place in the 60s. Of course, you've got the 70s all the way up to the 10s.
Okay.
Or the Ox or whatever we're calling that now. But these are all really great. This kind of takes a huge chapter of the Spider-Man story arc and kind of condenses it as best they can into one comic book, but they're all kind of tied together. So if you can find these are super great. These are the Spider-Man life story. These are all really
2019. 2019 you said?
2019, 2018, somewhere in that. But those are all really, 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 really good. I cannot recommend those enough. I was super blown away by that. Both the artwork as well as the story. I think they're fantastic. So that is and in rapid fire succession, kind of what I dig in my comics.
Dude, that's insane. I'm a little envious. I have some stuff, but like my kind of return to comic books. Like, I mean, like you said, you were kind of consistent with all your stuff. My collection from when I was a little kid, like I don't really have any of that left. I mean, I
Yeah.
probably have a small stack of stuff. I read a lot of Mad Magazine and Cracked when I was a kid, so I have I
I
have
loved Cracked.
I have those.
Yeah.
Like I still have
Do you
those.
really? You've got
Yeah.
your old Mad magazines?
Yep. I would get those on a pretty consistent basis. Um, I had a friend. There was a grocery store that was pretty close to our house, and I had a friend that lived like really close to that grocery store. Like it was like within walking distance, and they sold Cracked and Mad, and I would like scrape whatever change I could get together and like, here you go. Like,
I got to see what the fold out
because it was
poster
like
is.
it was even like $3 back. You know what I mean? It was friggin'
Yeah.
expensive.
Oh yeah.
It
Oh
was
yeah.
even even in the mid
Yeah.
90s or whatever. But like, yeah,
Uh,
I would get some change together
Freddie
and
Newman made his money. That's for sure.
yeah. And he would go get it. He would go get it and he'd bring it to school in his backpack and like, don't let anybody see this. Is
Yeah,
Crack
exactly.
magazine.
You kind of had to keep it,
I had the one
kind of
that
had to put it between the mattress.
yeah there was I had an issue it was an O.J. Simpson one where it was like his mug shot, but then they made his hair look like Bart Simpson. Do you remember this one? Do you remember this one?
Yes. Yes.
Pretty famous one. That was a Cracked magazine, and my dad was not happy about that because
Yeah.
they were like making fun of like basically it was like O.J. Simpson, but it was like drawn as the Simpsons. Like they did like the entire story. I don't know. He was not a fan of it, and pretty much was
Yeah.
like, I don't know where you got this, but
It's
it's
not coming to the house.
yeah, like it's gone. Like forget it.
Yeah.
You'll never see it ever again. So time to get out on eBay.
Yeah.
Hopefully I can get that before Christmas, right? I'm gonna get that shipping. Um, Craig said I went to Wizard World Comic Con in 2003. So
Very cool.
that's cool, man. That's
Yeah.
I wonder did you meet anybody cool or do any I don't know see any good artists or anything like that? Now that I'm saying this, I'm forgetting some stuff, so I'll have to save it for another. We can maybe kind of add this to the show later on in future installments where we can talk about comic books a little bit more if you guys like that.
Yeah.
Um, so I wanted to show you some of the cool stuff. But first, before you go any further, before we forget, so being a man of fine taste, right? So like, see,
Ah.
I got pretty much the whole run of these, right?
Ooh, trade paperback. Look at
No,
this
dude, this is
guy.
hardcover. This is hardcover. This is
Hardcover.
yeah. You didn't know that. So they do.
Look at this guy.
So all the guys that did the Yo books, right? Craig Yo. So
I don't
he
look.
was
I don't even have any hardcovers. All I got is trade
the
paperbacks
floppy
of
things,
the
man.
thing.
Like you have like these are
Good stuff.
incredible,
That's a great
man.
comic.
These
Yeah.
are incredible. And I figured out my genre of comics that I enjoy are the pre-code horror comics. So I am officially, a 50-year-old, 60-year-old, 70-year-old man. And that's what I figured out. Like that's my favorite. That's my one genre of comics that I love. So for those of that don't know about haunted horror or weird love or haunted love, which was the 3-issue series of
Or weird
uh,
haunted love.
so they put out the books, right? So there's the hardcover books, and they also did. Let's see if I have it right here. So they put the comics in the hardcover book as well too. So I got the full run, but I also got this because I like all the extra little stuff. So you know,
Yeah.
I'm an idiot. I paid for it twice, but oh well, it's amazing.
It's all good.
Yeah, but then these ones were like stuff that wasn't in that they didn't really put in haunted horror, so there's no overlap. But it's so good, man. I
Yeah.
love reading, me and this kind of stuff. Um, I went to the Pittsburgh Comic Con and Craig Yo was there. If
Oh.
do you know who Craig Yo is, Steve?
The artist that does all
Well,
that,
he's not
right?
the artist. He's that guy. He's the and he
Yeah.
look
That. Yeah. That.
and he looks like
Yeah.
that in person too. He has like the one like hair. Very strange guy, but super intelligent, genius guy. Um, Yo Books is the website that they do stuff, and they've really, and with the pandemic and everything, they don't print these anymore. They
Yeah.
stopped with haunted horror because it costs too much to print and send them over. But So I met Craig Yo, and he did sign the book. It's going to be hard to see this. This is that thing that we do with the thing. So it says to Mark and Sam,
Okay.
uh, my good fiends, Craig Yo. And the funny story about this is, so I bought a couple of these books from him, and he was giving me change back, and he gave me by far the wettest $5 bill that I've ever touched in my entire life. Like it was like he fished it out of a toilet. Like it was just like, and I was like, this is the strangest thing. But yeah, there's a ton of these, man. There's about 20 of these books, and they're all pre-code horror comics. Some of them are in black and white, a lot of them are in color, but baby, it's
Very
so
cool.
so good. All stuff from like the 40s and the 50s before, there was the comic code. Um, I got a couple more of those. Here's some in trade paperback. You know that cover, right, Steve?
Yeah, die, die, die,
My,
my
my
darling, by
darling.
the
That's
Misfits.
right. There's also the first issue. Were you getting that monthly? Were you getting Haunted Horror monthly, or did you?
No, 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 not monthly. Those. I didn't see those too often, but when I did, I snatched them up. They've since started to reprint them, and when I see them, I grab them. It's yeah. Unfortunately, I don't have the time in the world to go to physically go to the comic book store monthly, but I that's probably one of those things that if I have a subscription, that's absolutely what I would one of the things that would be on it for
Well,
sure.
well, a lot of comic book stores, they'll do the pull list where you just tell them this is what you
Oh yeah,
want, and they'll hold
yeah,
them for you. So,
yeah.
yeah, that's. I mean, and really with my local shop, once the pandemic hit, I stopped going. So I'm sure there was like I had a kind of a back, um, some comics that they were holding for me or something like that. So I don't know. Uh, these were I got this at half price books for $6. They had like the full run of these.
Oh
Um,
wow.
yeah, man, these sell online for like a lot of money now. They're like
Ooh.
it's the full issue. They even do like a glossy. Like I have no interest in actually buying originals of these, but it's here's
Well,
like the
you just
glossy.
it just gets too expensive, man.
Yeah.
It just gets far too expensive, and like most hobbies, I mean, that's there's just it's just too expensive.
Um,
It's far too expensive.
how did you get into horror comics? What was your first? What was your like introduction to those?
Uh, Probably through horror movies, I guess. Seeing when I was a kid, anything horror, I would be all over. Obviously being a kid of the late '80s, early '90s, you get the slasher movies and Friday the 13th and whatnot, and all that stuff was pretty prevalent. I mean, you would see Freddy Krueger dolls at Toys R Us and things like that. So, uh, as far as the first horror comic, I couldn't tell you what the first one was, but I was always attracted to stuff like that, and yeah, that just seemed kind of like a natural progression as to like, oh well, here there's comics now that I found that are like this. So, Creep Show probably had a lot to do with it, the movie, because it's just like a comic book. So,
Yeah. Um, Tom Savini in there, of course. Um,
and I tell you, some of the VHS cover art of some of those horror movies, they're animate, they're drawn. It's so vibrant and so powerful and so striking that you can't help but kind of take notice with stuff like that. And that was something that, again, we'll talk about a trip to nostalgia, going to the video store, going and looking at, those horror VHS tapes, man, with some of those covers. And that would be something that, yeah, you would look at those animated covers, and then, the comic books were just kind of a continuation of that.
yeah, I can tell you exactly where that started for me. Um, but first off, Vicky Yoshikawa says, "I see Taylor Swift." That's right. She's right over Steve's shoulder, right there.
Oh, okay. There we go.
Yeah. Craig said he met Lou Ferrigno, Nichelle Nichols, nice Star Trek. Cool things I bought were from View Askew booth. I'm a huge Kevin Smith fan. Bought a bootleg VHS copy of REO Speedwagon show from '81 and a Rolling Stones record that I can't say on here because this is for kids too, maybe. Um,
Mm,
that's cool,
all
Craig.
right.
Yeah, comic book cons are very cool, and I definitely went to my fair share of them. Um, Not something I plan on doing anytime soon, though. Um,
Yeah, no kidding. Or anything else for that matter.
but yeah, to talk about that like moment for me, it was so in 1994 for my birthday, I got a $10 gift certificate for Walden Books, and at the time,
Walden Books, there's a throwback.
that's right, old guy, here we go.
Yeah.
And
Next
Gem
to the sharper image.
Gems, yeah, and Master Cuts to get my hair cut.
Yeah.
Um, but Gemstone was, or Gladstone, I think it was Gladstone at the time. They were reissuing like Vault of Horror and Tales from the Crypt and things like that.
Ooh.
And I think what they were doing in Haunt of Fear, and they were like like the first issue, like they didn't come out like every single month. Like Vault of Horror came out in July, and then they had like another issue in October. So the one that I saw was from, it was like the issue number 8 of the Vault of Horror was the first introduction to those comic books, and I got it, and I was like completely hooked. And then I would always look for those at the flea market. So like when I would go with my dad, I would they. You know how they would all they redid them like in the 70s, and a lot of them it was like a double issue where it would be, or maybe it was like the late 80s or something like that, where it was like you'd get like an issue of like the Vault of Horror, and then there'd be like one for Weird Science in it or something like that. Do you remember that? Do you
Mm-hmm.
remember seeing those?
Oh
Um,
yeah. Oh yeah.
so
Yeah.
yeah, I've since bought tons of those. Here, I'm gonna show you. I have here it is right here. Um, these have since like come out again. Now they're just starting to reissue these again. So if you want these Tales from the Crypt and stuff like that, like now's the time to get them, because these were ridiculously out of print. They started redoing these like this is like probably 2009, something like that.
Oh wow.
They only did about 3 or 4, and then like the company that was printing them went out of business, so they stopped. And then Dark Horse has since scooped them up, and they're releasing them, and they're also releasing them on paperback, which is kind of nice because you can get a pretty nice run for like $20. So these were like almost $50 when they came out. Yeah, this
Oh
is
wow.
$49.95. For one easy installment of $49.95, you can have good stuff. Um,
Speaking of Tales from the Crypt, I think that's probably where it started from, was the TV show.
okay.
We didn't have HBO at my house, but I had friends and we would kind of sneak and watch it and things like that. So that's probably where it kind of started, is as far as the horror comics. I know it's not necessarily a comic, but
Yeah,
it's about the only thing I
but it
can
was
think
like,
of.
but just that like, hey, Tales from the Crypt, and then like, oh, it's a comic book too, and then it's like, and then like,
Right,
it
right,
does have
right.
name recognition kind of thing with that. Um,
Exactly.
do you have any of these? Do you have any of these?
No.
So this is kind of the same thing. It's reprints of black and white, kind of crappy. It's on
Yeah.
like a step up from like newspaper. Definitely smells like cheap paper. But these came out probably 10 years ago or so now. A lot of these are out of print, but I have a few of these. I have like Sergeant Rock, and I have the full run of the House of Mystery. What was
Well,
the other
yeah,
one?
I've
What was the other one? There was
what's
House of
that?
Mystery, and then there was what was the other one that was like there were two different ones. There was the House of Mystery, and then there was another one. There were the two brothers. They
I
had
don't know.
different.
Those are new to me.
Okay, so this is like DC's. This is DC's horror line, and these came out in the 70s.
Okay.
So they're not like
Hmm.
the the pre-code like this kind of stuff. So they're kind of tame. There's not like blood and guts and stuff like that, but it'll be like, every once in a while somebody's head gets cut off and things like that. But it's not
Ooh.
it's not to the point of, I mean, this stuff is great. I love this. This is just
Yeah.
fantastic to when I can find time
What's
to actually sit down and read this.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got several of those, those big thick, I've got one for like Captain America and the early Ghost Rider issues and things like that. So those are a lot of fun. But yeah, you're right. The paper's really cheap, and it's not the easiest material to kind of sit down in a chair and
Yeah,
read.
and
You know what I mean?
and then you're like,
Well, not the material inside, but the physical copy of the book.
yeah,
It doesn't really lend itself as
it's like a
being too
phone book.
friendly.
Like
And
it's like phone book paper
I mean, it
almost.
really is. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's exactly what it's like. Yeah.
yeah. but there's some good moments. But yeah, these were $17 when they came out. So I
Mm.
think they have the first three. There's 3 volumes of House of Mystery. House of Secrets is the other one. That was the other. There's House
Ooh.
of Mystery, House of Secrets. So pretty much the same thing, just those kind of comics. So I
Yeah.
enjoy
All
those
right.
kind of stuff. I have way more that we can bring to another episode, so we won't talk about it tonight. So we'll kind of wrap up here. But I did want to show you 2 newer comics that I really enjoyed.
Okay.
Are you familiar with Saga?
No.
You're not familiar with Saga. Okay, so Saga is pretty cool.
No.
It's a sort of a sci-fi sort of Romeo and Juliet kind of story.
Okay.
There's Marco, I believe is the guy's name, and so he has like these ram thing, and then his lady friend has these wings, and they're definitely they're 2 different kind of races in space that shouldn't be married together, and they have a kid, and they try to save the
Okay.
universe. So this is a sci-fi kind of thing.
Oh, very cool. All right.
They did first trade paperback for this is $10. So, and it's like you'll sit down and you'll read it in like a half an hour, and you'll be like, I need more. I mean, this came out a little. It is for mature audiences too. There's some pretty you know some stuff that's not the language, and some images are kind of interesting that are in there. But this came out. The comic started in 2012, and I think they did maybe like 100 issues or so of it. They took a little bit of a break. It's Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples, and they're restarting it again. So they're going to kind of finish the story. But it's awesome, man. It's really
Okay.
cool, and it's kind of the perspective from the little baby. She's telling
Oh,
the
that's cool.
story
Yeah.
of this is whatever. This is what my life was like. So yeah, man, I really just want to like read this again. So it's been a bit since I read that. That's cool. And are you familiar with this?
What's that?
This is Lock and Key.
Lock it.
Lock and
Mm-mm.
Key.
Okay.
So they made this a Netflix show. It's about all these different. There's a place called Key House, and there's all these different keys that sort of unlock different things in your mind and different worlds that you can go to. Um,
Okay.
so yeah, so it's on Netflix. You might want to check that out. But again, the it's a really cool story. I think it's fun. So
All right.
there's kind of it's sort of supernatural, I guess, in a way. But yeah, they're definitely cool. So it won all kinds of Eisner Awards, I think, and things like that. So Joe Hill and Gabriel Rodriguez. So check that out.
Right
So
on. All right.
that's what I got, man. That is
Very
everything
cool.
that I had. So, but we can maybe talk comics at another time. So, um,
Yeah, absolutely.
quiet day in the chat. Craig, thanks for watching. I know that this may have not have been the most exciting episode that we've done, but it was awesome to know that you read haunted horror, man. That's cool. Like that's
Yeah. See, we found something new about. So very cool.
I have, and again,
Yeah.
I have tons of these. I have tons of these, man. I have like so that one. I have. There's more too. I don't even have them all within in striking distance, right? But
Well, hey, and you know what? If Craig comes and hangs out with us weekly, then that's
yeah,
reason enough to do a show.
yeah, Craig. Thanks for always sort of being at the ready for the shows, and I hope you're at work getting paid to watch this.
Listen
And
to us, yeah.
this is a good one. This is all about zombies,
Oh,
the unsleeping
God, they
dead.
just keep coming.
Dude,
They just keep
I'm telling
coming.
you, man. There's still. I have a whole bookshelf full of them. Why not, right? Crime
Yeah.
and suspension stories. You
Ooh.
you name it, I got it, man. Tales from the Crypt. Boom, boom, boom. Here's some other ones. This is one of my. The next one coming up is like one of my favorite Tales from the Crypt episodes. Weird
Weird
Science, right?
Science.
Right. Do you remember? Do you remember
The
this? Do you remember this?
movie Weird Science?
No, this
Oh,
is
no.
the Tales from the Crypt. So this was like the guy that plays. Oh man, he was the guy. And then we're bringing it full circle, more ways than one. The guy that plays Ray Manzarek in the Doors movie is the actor that is in this episode of Tales from the Crypt. So
So there we
I didn't
go.
make
There we
we
go,
didn't
man.
plan this. This wasn't planned. So this is amazing. Um, so he was so he basically, the story is, he like escapes from jail and he has like a handcuff on, and I won't spoil it, but he's trying to get away and he's like in the middle of the desert and he has like a dead guy that he's pulling along with him, and then the buzzards are coming.
Okay.
It's good stuff. It's good stuff if you're into that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
one of my favorite Tales from the Crypt episodes. So final thoughts. Uh,
Uh,
there we are.
Go check out the second Night City record. That's my final thought. I
Final
can't
thought.
that's comics are fun, man. Comics and records. There's there was a time when I would put on a record and crack open a comic book, and that would
Woo!
be
That's some good.
a
That's some
fun
good.
filled afternoon.
That's a good time, man. Yeah.
So
So thanks for everybody that was. Craig says he works 9 to 5. It's a bank job. So sorry that you couldn't be at work watching us. But that's all good. Thank you for
right on.
watching. So anybody that watched and didn't comment, we still appreciate you too.
For sure,
You don't
absolutely. Come back,
you don't
please.
have to comment. So thank you all for watching, and we'll see you guys next time. So take care.